In the last few years, there has been an unprecedented rise of the self-improvement scene, with people like Tate, Hamza, Sneako, and similar figures making millions of views and thousands to probably millions of dollars on YouTube alone. The bubble was getting bigger and shadier, and it was clear what would happen one day. And if you look today in 2025, it seems as if the self-improvement scene is finally healing. Tate literally just exploded in popularity. From one day to the next, he was everywhere and able to build up a cult-like fanbase. With his own learning platform, he apparently made millions, and he was even one of the most Googled people in 2023. But how does it look for him nowadays? Where is the top G today?
He's made a lot of money over a lot of time by scamming people.
He perpetuates control, lies, and manipulation on a mass scale.
How I control their emotions. We are basically his mafia. But when I lived in England, I refused to pay tax. It was 40%. I've committed multiple felonies. And my dad was my hero.
Do you think he's proud of you?
Tate and his brother Tristan have been arrested in Romania over allegations of rape and sexual assault.
Of course, he lost a lot of popularity, but that was to be expected as nobody can stay at the peak forever. There was, of course, the court case in which he was first convicted and jailed for 3 months, but has since been released. I'm not going to judge here whether the whole thing was fair or unfair, and neither should you because none of you were there and have the slightest idea whether it was or not. Then The Real World got hacked and some pretty questionable chats were leaked, in which he explains to a few of his minions how to isolate women from their families and make them dependent on you. And some of the things in this chat is just the most degenerate stuff ever, and what's even crazier is how he tries to justify the whole thing. Something that happened a longer time ago is that he converted to Islam without ever really wanting to live the religion. Which makes me wonder, Muslims are usually so serious and protective when it comes to their religion, but when an Tate comes along and says he's Muslim now but doesn't care about the religion and just uses it as a means to get more fans and reach to sell his scam course, somehow nobody seems to care. But in my opinion, the biggest point of Tate's downfall and the fact that he is no longer the man he always pretended to be is his involvement in the crypto market, where he used to have an opinion like this.
I do not endorse any crypto. I do not want anybody who is associated with me in any form to lose. I don't want any of my fans to lose. I don't want any young children who believe in me to lose. I don't want anybody to lose a single penny.
Are you going to launch your own crypto?
No, I'm never going to launch a crypto. I just like to f*** crypto Twitter. Because crypto Twitter are full of the biggest degenerate losers on the planet. They're losers. Crypto is the only scenario I can think of where you can make a whole bunch of money while benefiting societies.
10 more. 10 more. Boom, went through, 10 more. Buy my real nigga Tate. Take my Solana. Buy it.
I guess he is a degenerate loser, but the funniest thing is that he has released his own coin called... Yes, he has released his own crypto coin called Daddy, and I just can't for the life of me understand how his fans can't see that irony. He always talks about that you have to be masculine, that you have to work hard, that you have to be respected, and that you have to be a true alpha. And then you go out and buy a crypto coin called Daddy, name another man top G, give him hundreds of euros every month so you can join his Discord server, and all this while reading the Tate Bible. Very masculine. And while we're on the subject of his course, anyone who has bought this mobile game simulator simply is just beyond saving and has given their hard-earned money and that of their family to this guy. Hamza had his big peak phase around 2022-23, where he pumped out an incredible amount of videos. Unlike Tate, however, Hamza was a YouTuber who wanted to come across more like a big brother in his videos. But of course he would also eventually bring out his own course, for which you have to pay $1,000 a year. However, we will go into this in more detail later, because this was not the only thing that was criticized about Hamza. Because as the big self-improvement hype started to die down, viewers slowly started to see the truth about these influencers, and that is, they don't really know what they are actually talking about. That they are known and upload videos where they explain things doesn't really mean anything. Viewers have this idea of influencers that they must know their stuff, but what they don't realize is that anyone can just start uploading videos and talk about anything. However, his course wasn't even the biggest criticism of him. It was his constant changing of advice and contradicting himself. At some point, he was practically only known for this. In the beginning, he had his normal YouTube channel where he uploaded daily. Then he made a video in which he said that he would no longer make highly edited YouTube videos and would now concentrate on his own development.
What my purpose is now is my own development to become even more of a man. And the angle that it's currently fixated on, my mind, my heart, and my soul, is fighting, competition, martial arts. That's what I'm throwing myself into fully. I'm no longer going to be posting on a schedule, like we posted every single day at the same time. I'm not going to do that anymore. Sometimes I might disappear for weeks and months. And I know it sounds silly, but like sometimes I might go to the mountains and stay in the mountains. In less than 2 weeks, I move and I will go and stay in a training camp, a fight camp, where I will literally stay in a single bed in the gym, not like a weightlifting gym, but in a martial arts gym, where I will train for hours upon hours every single day.
Despite these statements, he still uploaded long detailed videos over the next few months that required a lot of work. And in these videos, he was not in the mountains, but in his bedroom in the UK. Of course, people were pretty confused. And after 4 months, he finally made a statement.
2 months ago, I posted a video saying that I had fulfilled my purpose and that I was going to go into the mountains to go train martial arts. This fight camp, I go and sit down and journal in my room. And I just asked myself a question, is this authentic?
So the man who always says that you should do the hard work, especially when you don't feel like it, the one who always talks about discipline, couldn't even last a single day in this new chapter of his life. And he was back to daily uploads, and it was really all downhill from there, because then he announced his fatherhood chapter.
And soon we're going to buy a home and we're going to have children. I'm going to move up my family here. I'm going to move up like families that I love. And I'm going to create this dream into a reality. But basically, I'm starting the fatherhood chapter of my life.
After the video, he went on as normal for months and didn't mention it anymore. And one day, his subscribers saw a very specific video on their homepage. Yes, he proudly announced he wanted to be a father only to break up with his girlfriend because he wanted to be a degenerate.
Me and my ex split up is because we did this little exercise together where I told her to sit down and to write down like her goals and the season of life that she wanted to get into. So both of us had our laptops out and we wrote about, okay, for the next few months, what kind of life do we want to live? And I'm not gonna lie, like I could see how like offended she was, where she was quite like pressuring. She was like, wait, you want to do this? Oh, you want to do that? You want to stay up late, but that's unhealthy. And I understood, it is fair enough. What I'm saying is like, oh yeah, like I kind of want to be a little bit more sleep deprived. And she just couldn't really see that this was like me just being authentic, that this was the life I wanted to live. So there was quite a lot of like judgment from her. And when I saw that judgment, I thought, yeah, like maybe we're not actually compatible for the next season.
But the ultimate nail in the coffin was his Adonis school, his very own The Real World, where you could join for the small entry price of €500 and then €125 a month. And although his Adonis school doesn't seem to be as bad as The Real World, it's still not good, and definitely not worth hundreds of euros. Now obviously I wasn't stupid enough to buy this course, so I can't personally confirm the following part, but there are an incredible amount of videos of former members talking about the content of the course.
What's in the actual community is the same thing you get from his videos. You can, look on his channel, and all of the information in the community is just, I guess you could say, maybe a little better within the packaging. It's nice courses with like, PDFs and trackers and all these other things, but it's basically what's in his videos repackaged, but it's all the same information at the end of the day.
But to be honest, who is surprised? There is nothing he could possibly say in this course or any other value you could get that would justify this price. And even if the course only cost €10 a month, I wouldn't buy it. So where is he today? Well, he has completely shut down his main channel and now runs 3 much smaller channels, where on 2 of them he uploads calm, unedited videos like he did on his main channel for a while, before deleting them again. And on the 3rd one, it's him training kickboxing every day. And at the moment it seems like he's definitely lasted longer than the first day. So who knows, maybe Hamza really can turn things around and become the Adonis he always wanted to be. But to be honest, even if he does, I still wouldn't support him in the future. Next on the list is Sneako, and the funny thing about him is he could never reach the heights of Tate or Hamza, but his lows are still so much worse that at some point it was really just amusing and sad.
You are so stupid!
I've seen her fuck other men.
In the beginning, he was a 14-year-old boy who talked calmly about his opinions and controversial topics. But the more time passed, the more he slowly went downhill. But then came the ultimate fall. Of course, through Andrew Tate, because like so many others, Sneako allowed himself to be influenced by him and developed into a lonely, all-hating shadow of his former self, a self-admitted cuck who insults and tries to humiliate everyone else without realizing that he has completely failed himself.
Yeah, bro, you're fat, you got a shitty haircut, you can't tell me shit about my shit.
And then he wanted to make his downfall official, and so he also published his own course. However, this one is even worse than the ones we already had today. And unlike Sneako, Tate and Hamza could at least show some success to justify their prices, compared to Sneako, who is just some guy who wants you to pay 50 euros a month to learn how to be successful on social media, while he himself is basically banned everywhere. 2022 on YouTube and 2024 on Twitch and even Kick. He currently uploads videos and live streams on Rumble to significantly fewer viewers, where he sits in his room for hours and reacts to TikToks. So you can say that nobody is interested in him anymore. And I also think it's very unlikely that he'll make another comeback, even if he's getting unbanned everywhere. Most people have simply moved on and are just tired of this kind of content creator.
Sad boys online, man. I'm so...
The last ones for today are Fresh&Fit. Fresh&Fit started in 2020, and in the beginning it was just the one better-known guy who actually made relatively normal videos about fitness and similar topics. Then in 2021, they started live streaming in pairs, where they mostly talked about the typical stuff. And at that time, the topics they talked about weren't as overused and extreme as they are today. And it wasn't long before they started their typical format, where they had several women as guests and asked them questions. And so they started to explode in popularity. But as with Sneako, the more famous they became, the more extreme their views got. And I'm not going to go into detail about all the scandals, firstly because there are far too many, and secondly because it's just not worth it. But in short, an escort got pregnant by one of them, and he wanted her to have an abortion, while they themselves always make statements like this.
Women rarely get held accountable for their poor decisions. Men do, though. Men have to live in reality. Women are afforded the privilege of being delusional.
The other is active on sugar daddy websites and pays for the women there to come on his podcast.
Who approached me on a sugar daddy website and asked me to be your sugar baby and then couldn't afford my allowance.
Never did.
He couldn't afford my $10,000 allowance a month and said, that's funny. Why don't you just come on my podcast instead? So he pays $40 a month to be on a app. It's called Seeking Arrangements to troll women.
Yes.
And I know a bunch of girls have talked about it.
And these scandals wouldn't even get so much criticism if they had not previously spoken against the very same things. Of course, they also published their own courses at some point for a mere 700 euros. Then, after realizing they were losing relevance, the more popular of the two started live streaming the most extreme actions in hopes of going viral again. But all it did was that they lost their monetization, and the other one started his own channel on the side. They are actually still actively streaming and uploading videos, however, with nowhere near the audience they used to have, and since they are still demonetized on YouTube, they rely on payments from Rumble and donations from viewers. Will they make a comeback? Probably not, and that's definitely for the best. People like this, who put down everybody else without realizing that they are exactly what they are criticizing, should not be supported. To conclude this video, it's quite funny to see how these people show their true faces as soon as they start to lose popularity. While Hamza has really changed something and is at least trying to improve, the others have just gone absolutely insane and completely sold out their already low morals and honor.